Okay, get ready for this. Imagine you inherit a beautiful piece of land, a forest that's been in your family for generations. You paid the taxes on it year after year, and one day you finally go to visit and it's gone. And in its place, an entire luxury housing development. Now, this isn't some weird hypothetical. This is the true story of how one man found 96 houses built on his stolen property and then decided to get even in the most brilliant way you can imagine. Let's get into it.
Yeah, you heard that right. Not by accident, on purpose. Those are the words of Dakota Flint, the guy at the center of all this. And he's not some real estate tycoon or a big-shot lawyer. He's a structural engineer, a totally normal guy who inherited 47 acres of forest in Colorado from his grandfather. But when he went there to scatter his grandpa's ashes, he walked into a crime scene on a scale that is just mind-boggling.
Just take a second and let that number really sink in. We're not talking about a fence being a few feet over the property line. We're talking 96 fully built, completed homes with streets, mailboxes, the whole shebang. An entire community built from scratch on land that was stolen.
And the money involved here? It's staggering. The land alone, which his grandfather bought for like $8,000 back in the 70s, was now worth over $4 million. And that's not even counting the value of the 96 houses sitting on top of it. So the big question is, how on earth does something like this even happen?
Well, when you boil it all down, this is a classic David versus Goliath story. You've got the little guy, an ordinary landowner, up against a super powerful developer who clearly thought she could get away with anything. I mean, just look at the contrast here. On one side, you have Dakota. He's a structural engineer who did everything by the book, paid his property taxes every single year without fail. And on the other side, you have Cassandra Whitmore, the developer. She calls him a deadbeat squatter on his own land and actually says to his face, "People like you don't win against people like us." The sheer arrogance is just off the charts, and it becomes a huge part of this story.
So picture this first meeting. It really sets the stage for everything. Dakota drives up to where his forest should be, and instead there's a gate and a security guard. Cassandra Whitmore herself comes out, and she doesn't just deny his claim. She practically laughs in his face. She throws around this legal term, adverse possession, basically saying, "Tough luck, it's ours now." And then to top it all off, she takes a picture of his license plate, a total power move, meant to scare him off.
So what do? Your land's been stolen, they're selling houses on it. The obvious move is to sue immediately, right? Get a judge to shut the whole thing down. Well, this is where the story gets so good, because the best move was to do nothing at all.
First, let's talk about this adverse possession thing Cassandra was banking on. It's a real legal concept, but, and this is a huge but, it has really strict rules. In Colorado, you have to occupy the land for 18 years. But here's the absolute killer detail, the fatal flaw in her whole plan. The person trying to claim the land also has to be the one paying the property taxes for all that time. And Dakota, he had every single receipt proving he'd never, ever missed a payment.
So Dakota finds this incredibly sharp lawyer, Lydia Chen. He lays out the whole insane story, hands her a stack of tax receipts, and is probably expecting her to run to the courthouse that afternoon. But Lydia takes it all in and gives him advice that is the absolute last thing he was expecting to hear.
Her advice? Let him finish. Just wait. Lydia's thinking was just on another level. It was cold, it was calculated, and it was absolutely brilliant. See, if they sued right away, the developer's company could just declare bankruptcy. Dakota would be stuck in court for a decade, probably suing 96 different families who bought the houses in good faith. But if he waited, if he let them sink millions more into finishing the project, then he could sue the developer for everything, the land and all the finished houses on it. A single, clean target.
So Dakota agrees to play the long game. He waits. And while he's patiently waiting, Cassandra Whitmore gets even more arrogant. She decides to launch this disgusting, all-out harassment campaign to just break him, to make him give up and walk away.
And look how fast and how ugly it gets. It starts with calling the cops on him for just being parked on a public road near his own property. Then comes a fake complaint about him dumping trash. By January, she's smearing him on Facebook, calling him a stalker, which gets him suspended from his job. And then it gets genuinely terrifying. Someone breaks into his house and leaves a threatening note. This went way beyond a legal dispute. This was an attempt to completely ruin his life.
But here's the thing. While Cassandra was fighting this very public, very dirty war, Dakota was fighting a secret one.
He was documenting every single thing with time-stamped photos. He dug into their business and found out it was run by her and her husband, Preston, a guy with a really shady history. And, the real kicker, he found concrete proof that they had committed fraud by skipping a critical legal step in their land claim. So every time they attacked him, they were just handing him more ammunition for his lawyer.
So, finally, we get to the first day in court. The Whitmores stroll in, smug as can be. They filed a motion to get the whole case thrown out. They're convinced they've buried Dakota under so much stress and so many legal bills that he's just gonna fold. They had no idea what was coming.
Because what the Whitmores didn't know is that Lydia Chen had a trump card, a total game changer. An anonymous whistleblower, someone who'd been burned by Preston Whitmore on a past deal, had reached out. And he gave them the smoking gun that was about to blow their entire case wide open.
And this was it, an internal email from Preston to his wife, Cassandra. And it lays out their whole strategy. He admits, right there in black and white, that their legal claim is garbage and won't hold up. But, he says, they can create enough chaos to force Dakota to either settle for nothing or go bankrupt from the legal fight. It was proof. Premeditated, documented fraud.
You could just imagine the silence in that courtroom when the judge read that email. The game was over. Instantly. She denied their motion to dismiss, slapped them with a restraining order to stop the harassment campaign, and put the case on the fast track for trial. In one moment, the tables had completely and permanently turned.
So the final verdict comes down, and it is a complete, total knockout victory for Dakota. But honestly, what he did next is what takes this story from just being about revenge and turns it into something else entirely. It's about a different kind of winning.
So here's the final scorecard. The court gives Dakota everything. Full ownership of the land and all 96 houses, plus $4.2 million in damages. The Whitmores, they face financial ruin and get referred for criminal prosecution. But this created a new problem. What about the 96 families who had bought these homes? They were now legally living on land owned by Dakota.
Now, Dakota could have evicted every single family, sold the houses for a massive profit, and no one could have blamed him. It was legally his right. But he kept thinking about this note his grandfather had left him with the deed. All it said was, "Don't let the bastards take what's yours." And he decided to interpret that message in a way that nobody saw coming.
Instead of cashing in, he created a nonprofit, the Ridgeline Heights Community Trust, and he transferred ownership of all 96 homes into it. The families got to stay, they would own their homes through this trust, and they would only have to pay whatever they originally agreed to pay that crooked developer. Any of their future payments would just go into the trust at 0% interest to be used for things like community upkeep. He didn't just win his land back. He literally built a community out of the mess.
And as one final amazing gesture, he used funds from that trust to set up the William Flint Memorial Scholarship, named for his grandpa. It gives $10,000 a year to a student in Colorado. He took an act of pure corporate greed and turned it into this incredible legacy of generosity.
You know, Dakota's story is just this perfect example of patience and brilliant strategy. But more than that, it's about integrity. It's such a powerful reminder that sometimes the smartest move is the one no one else is thinking about. And it really leaves you with this big question. Justice isn't just about punishment. It's about what you build after the fight is over. So what does it truly mean to win?